What it means is essentially sensors, sensor-based silicon chip sensors that are being used on the farm that collect data and transmit that data. Not only can you get savings in the amount of water in significant amounts, but you can also actually get an increase in yield. So in some cases, you could save 40% on the amount of water, and you could potentially double your yield. Depends on the type of plant, but you could potentially double your yield. That's something that's totally different than in the past, because in the past, the general assumption would be if you cut back on water, you would have some reduction in yield that would be acceptable versus the amount of savings you have on water. It's particularly important in California because we just came through a 5-year drought where just getting water is a premium. So whatever water you have to be very efficient in using it. And so there was very rapid adoption of this ag technology in terms of the water side of things than there otherwise might have been. And so that is really how California agriculture got through the drought of the last 5 years.
As researchers, as innovators, as academics, and as people whose job it is to turn science into solutions, we're participating in this ag tech, food tech boom in California. And there are all kinds of innovations happening, from drones to sensors, to robotics, to new chemical inputs and decision support software that's really changing the landscape and the worker landscape of the food and agriculture worker of California. But the innovation infrastructure to really create the solutions and tie them together is broadband. And if we don't have rural broadband, our innovation is hampered, and we're not able to really both build, deliver, implement, and tie together all these innovative food and agriculture technology-focused solutions without that broadband infrastructure.
My name is David Ogilvy. I'm a fourth-generation farmer in Clarksburg, California. And I grew up here on this farm. My grandparents live on this ranch, and loved growing up here in Clarksburg around farmland and farming, and went to UC Davis and studied viticulture and enology, and worked in the wine industry, traveled for a couple years around the world working in the wine industry and making wine. I've been back home on the farm since 2014 and managing the vineyards. We grow 1,100 acres of grapes, all different varieties. As a farmer, I'm using new apps, farming apps. One that I use a lot is Terra Avion, which gives me NDVI. It's a vigor index that shows where vines are healthy or not healthy. And that app is fantastic to have when I'm in the field and be able to use it on the fly. Unfortunately, on out of 1,100 acres, I just really don't have good enough coverage or good enough mobile broadband that allow me to load the information onto that platform. So precision agriculture to me means being able to do more and get more data and do it with less people, less intervention. The best technology out there is your own eyeballs and walking through the vineyards and getting a feel for what's going on in the vineyards. But if you can add more tools to your tool chest to become more efficient and a better farmer and gathering that data, to me that's a very good thing. I see a future where we have tractors driving themselves, valves, irrigation being done by a mobile phone instead of going out and opening valves, and that technology already exists, but you need infrastructure to do that, broadband infrastructure or cellular infrastructure. So, but I do, when it comes to precision agriculture, there's a lot of stuff out there that we've just scratched the surface on and what we're doing, which is soil moisture monitoring with probes going 5 feet into the soil and measuring how much moisture is in the soil at each level at 6 different measuring points. And what that allows me to do is irrigate only, monitor my irrigation so that it goes only down to 3 feet. If I go beyond 3 feet, I'm really not, I'm basically over irrigating because our root zone is really just down to 3 feet. So also if I'm applying a fertilizer through drip irrigation that I'm pushing down into the soil, if I'm over irrigating, that fertilizer is going farther down in the soil where the roots can't get it. And I don't want to do that. That's not efficient farming. And then there's also the issue of nutrients just not getting to the plant and going into other water streams. So there's precision agriculture is a very broad term, and there's so many different avenues to discuss with that, but we're just scratching the surface and there's a lot more out there. But again, you need the infrastructure, broadband cellular infrastructure to use that.
This project, called Bridging California's Rural-Urban Digital Divide Using Mobile Broadband, is very important. We as a chapter here are located in Silicon Valley, and most people tend to assume that because we're in Silicon Valley, the cradle of technology, that everybody has access to the internet without any problems. But that's really not the case if we look at the rural regions of California. The attention to this issue was brought to us by Mr. Robert Say when he presented to our members last year, 2016, in one of our member events. He informed us about the challenges of broadband in rural regions and how it was very important that this issue at least be highlighted. The project itself is going to be replicable in many different regions, and we are really excited to have this opportunity to be able to, again, be an advocate for internet access.
Access to medical care is a really challenging thing in rural areas. There aren't very many specialists, and telehealth is a way to bring those specialized services to people who live in rural areas, but you need broadband to do it. It's really important from a socioeconomic equity perspective. You are not able to access government services, you're not able to give good access to kids to do their homework when they're home from school if they don't have broadband. So we hope that the work that we're doing with the San Francisco Bay chapter of ISOC will bring a light onto some of the challenges that we face in rural areas.
In Yolo County, we're deploying the CalSpeed testing software, which was developed by CSU Monterey Bay for the California Public Utilities Commission. With CalSpeed software, the idea is to test the user experience. So by doing that, we install the app on normal Android smartphones and have a staff take them out into the field, run the software, and it collects information on mobile broadband throughput or speed, the latency of the connection, and other stuff like suitability for video conferencing or voice over IP. And the idea is to not just capture speed, but the overall performance of the connection.
Traditionally, telecommunications policy overall has been based on or focused on people. So, for example, for many telecom companies, they're looking at their customers, and their business models are focused on population density and serving individual people as customers. Whereas on the rural areas, and this is the distinction with agriculture technology on the farm, that we're talking about the farm, or where the sensors are, they're either with plants or with animals. Those are a different type of customer. I think it's impossible to overstate the significance of this. It sounds like a very small project measuring 150 sites, but it is the first step in measuring broadband signal on farm fields. To my knowledge, no one has ever measured systematically broadband signal on farm fields anywhere in the US. And the word has gotten out on this project, and everywhere it's gone across the country, whether it's at USDA or with big ag equipment manufacturers or in other universities, they're very excited about this, and they all want to jump in to measure broadband signal, because what you've done is, before we would have anecdotal complaints about whether there is or isn't broadband on a specific farm field, and if there isn't, they can't adopt the new ag technology. But it's all anecdotal. If we are going to implement broadband infrastructure policies, we have to have a map or a database to work on to tell us where we need to go. And this survey is the first step in that.